When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. That's right.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, the M&MLife. My name is Camry, and as promised, in one place, here is my journey. All the way from undergrad to now finishing the end of my first year of medical school. I know if you've been following me for a while, you've kind of gotten bits and pieces throughout different videos of mine about where I was, what part of my training I was in, etc., etc. And I kind of just wanted to make a video that compiled all of that into one video in one place for people who just want to hear about my journey. So first and foremost, honestly, let's back it up to high school. Why not? So I attended a high school that was considered a science and technology high school. And so what it was about half of the student body had a traditional high school education, and then the other half were enrolled in a variety of different programs. I believe my high school had 17. So they had like cosmetology, they had auto collision. I was in the Academy of Health Professions. They had biotechnology, criminal justice, etc., etc. And so with that, I had a kind of different high school experience. Like as I got older, I think once 10th grade, maybe 11th grade year and 12th grade year rolled around, but definitely 11th and 12th. My mornings were actually spent in a local hospital doing hours to get my CNA license. And so I actually obtained my CNA license before I graduated from high school. And so then I went off to college from there. For those of you who do not know, I went to Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, where I was a biology major on the pre-med track. I was involved in just about everything under the sun in undergrad. I did a lot. I was an HCOP scholar, which stands for Health Careers Opportunities Preparation Pipeline Program. Super mouthful, but basically through that, I got exposure to a lot of things in the medical field and kind of got a lot of support. I was heavily involved in the Health Careers program. I also was heavily involved on campus with Sisters Chapel. I was a chapel assistant. I was in a boatload of honor societies. I sat on a couple of exec boards for a lot of things that I was in. Then in addition, I was also heavily involved in mentoring in the community and things like that. So that was pretty much my undergrad career. And then the thing that matters most to you all from my undergrad career is probably when I started applying to med school, which is where all of this kind of began. So January of my junior year, I began an MCAT prep course. Spelman actually had an on-campus Princeton Review course where the Princeton Review instructors would come to campus and teach us. And so I did that. And then I was also studying for the MCAT, and then as well, second semester junior year for you bio pre-med people, you know that's like all your heavy classes. So, whoo, I was going through it. And so that semester I was studying for the MCAT, doing all of that, and then I took the MCAT in May of my junior year. And I took it, and I think if I had to go back, I probably wouldn't have taken that prep course at the same time that I was taking physics 2, orgo 2, biochem. Like my brain, just to give all I had to studying for the MCAT as well as excelling in those classes, I went in thinking that I could study the MCAT material alongside the material for class, and that just didn't happen. It became very overwhelming. I still was heavily involved in extracurricular activities. I was doing a lot in the community, and I probably would have taken a step back and dialed it down a little bit and kind of disengaged from some of my social responsibilities and really put forth the time I needed. I took the MCAT. Did I do completely amazing? No. Did I bomb it? No. It was kind of like I had a score that was like, I mean, okay, maybe it's not the best, but I knew I definitely could have done better. And so I battled a lot with myself that summer. I had already started my MCAT application before I even got my MCAT score back. And so that was a rough couple weeks of me and my mom trying to figure out what we're going to do. And so I started my MCAT application anyway. So we made the plan that I would continue as is, and we just kind of adjust my list of schools that I was applying to. And we kind of like took some schools off, added some different schools, looked into some other schools, you know, kind of just adjusted it to kind of match where my stats were. That whole summer, I wanted to take time to study, but I actually was working. For those of you who do not know, I worked for multiple summers as a team advisor for the National Student Leadership Conference on Medicine and Healthcare. I was that summer working at the Georgia Tech location as well as the University of Washington location in Seattle. And so between my students and giving my undivided attention, those were long days. And I had this lofty goal that I was also going to study for the MCAT again and retake it right at the fall of my senior year of college. And so I remember calling my mom from UW like, hey mom, can you mail me my MCAT book? So my mom packed them on up, mailed me a couple MCAT books, and I made time. But as a team advisor, your days probably start at about 6 a.m. and don't end until well after 11 p.m. And so realistically, I tried to run flashcards like when we took the students on field trips or when I had some downtime, or I tried to do a couple practice passages, but realistically, studying for the MCAT with days that long just didn't happen. And so that program ended right at the beginning of August. And then obviously I had to fly back to Atlanta to get ready for my senior year. And right before I left Seattle, I actually sprained my ankle. A little fun fact, I used to be a competitive cheerleader. And I also cheered in high school. So I have, needless to say, a lot of injuries. I've injured both of my ankles throughout my cheerleading career. Obviously, any little thing kind of aggravates my ankle. And so I ended up spraining my ankle on like the last day. And I remember calling Southwest and having to like have a wheelchair to help me through the airport and all these things. And so I'm going back to Atlanta. My parents met me in Atlanta because I was moving into a new apartment. And I was also on crutches at that point. So I needed a lot of help with moving into my new apartment for my senior year and getting everything squared away. And so in the midst of all that, I'm still trying to study for the MCAT. And I remember calling my mom and just being like, so what am I going to do? I called MCAS and I thought, well, maybe if I push it out 1 or 2 more dates from where I was supposed to take it, maybe it'll give me some time to actually study the way I want to study. So that was the plan. And so I called MCAS. All the dates were full. It was well past the time to get my money back. And ultimately, I made the tough decision to just cancel it and not take it. I know that sounds crazy, but I knew that it would be better for me to have the kind of okay score I had earlier in that year, and then not sit to take this if I know I'm not ready, than to waste that $300 and also to waste my time and have another score on my record that one was the same or, God forbid, even lower than what I did the first time. I couldn't push it out too far. I didn't want to take the MCAT in September because, God forbid, I do horrible. That's pushing me way too far behind in the application cycle. So I had all these things in my mind, and ultimately my parents and I had just decided we're going to step out on faith with the little bit of medical schools that we did apply to and hit send, and then also start prepping for different gap year options. So that was that. And with that, I got my secondaries. So I filled out the secondaries during fall of my senior year. Fast forward to spring, I had one medical school interview and then the MedPath interview. And ultimately, I got accepted to MedPath. So I graduated from college. I worked one more summer as a team advisor for the National Student Leadership Conference, and I worked at Harvard Medical School. And after my summer at Harvard, I came to Columbus, Ohio, where I kind of settled in, and I did the MedPath program. I have a separate video all about MedPath, all about what that program is like and the expectations, so you can go ahead and look at that video if you're interested. But I finished that program, and the stipulations for starting med school are also listed there. But I met all the requirements and then started med school fall of 2019. And then I recently recorded a video kind of recapping my M1 year experience. So once again, that's in the medical school playlist if you're interested. And now here I am. That was definitely a mouthful, but kind of just for people to kind of put a timeline on how long it took me to get to med school. So technically I started applying to medical school in May of my junior year of college, which would have been May 2017. And then I did not start med school until fall 2019. So as you can imagine, that was a long stretch. A lot of times, I kind of felt like, oh, what if things don't work out? What if I don't meet the requirements? And I tell people all the time that my journey was simply a journey of faith. I say all the time, like, this is my testimony and proof that when God has a plan for you, although it might feel like you're going up, down, around, things are never working out, He will never leave you void. If He promised you something, it will come to pass. And so for me, this was my process of trusting God when things literally felt shaky. Didn't know where I was going next, didn't know what all was happening, and quite honestly, that's where this channel came from. In the midst of all of that in my process, and spending time with God, He placed it on my heart to start this channel. And so I also just wanted to encourage all of you, whether you're applying to med school, applying to a master's program, or whatever you may be going through in your personal life, I just want to encourage you, one, that God is not going to play you. Like, I promise He's not. I know it feels crazy. I know it feels like, oh my God, like, you promised me this, but it didn't work out the first time. It didn't work out the second time. I promise, just because it didn't seem like it worked out, keep pressing. God has something so special for you. And I tell people all the time, one, I'm glad I didn't get into medical school the first go round. The MedPath program gave me a lot of what I needed academically to really make me feel prepared for med school. And then secondly, the people I've met. One of my best friends in medical school did the MedPath program with me. If I didn't have that gap year, it blows my mind to think that I wouldn't be going through medical school with someone that I consider one of my closest friends. And so I think about everything that I would have missed if I had gotten my promise the way I wanted to get it. And so, y'all, God is faithful. God is crazy faithful. I look at where I am now, done with my first year of medical school, and all I can say is thank you, God. Because honestly, when I think about my journey, every little thing that felt like it wasn't working out or felt like super crazy or super off, everything felt like it was falling through the cracks. I had planned to retake the MCAT and I got injured. I had issues squeezing in time to study. Literally everything that I had planned had fallen through the cracks. And here I was, a first semester senior at Spelman, fall 2017, and everyone is like starting to go on med school interviews, and I just felt like I was drowning. Like, I had so many things to think about. It felt like no matter what decision I made, it wasn't the best decision. And so for me, it took a lot of praying and fasting to even step out on faith to still submit my application. Knowing that, like, it wasn't necessarily my best foot forward, obviously, because I planned to retake the MCAT. And so I talk about in my Season of No series a lot of how that season really taught me not to depend on myself. Oftentimes, I think a lot of us where I had great grades all throughout undergrad, like I thought that I would be the picture perfect applicant in terms of how involved I was in the community, in terms of my grades, and then in terms of my MCAT score. And slowly God started to strip those things away from me. And I honestly think that it was his way of kind of showing me how to fully rely on him, to get me to where he's called me to be. Because I think maybe I got in my head, like, I have great grades, of course I'm going to get in. And God had to remind me that, like, of course you'll get in because that's where I've called you to be. But I need you to know that it was me that got you there and not you yourself. So y'all, I can't say it enough. God is faithful. I'm not going to get on here and preach and do all that. But I just really wanted to encourage y'all to keep pushing and trust God no matter what. I know that's easier said than done because I definitely had my moments where I felt like, God, where are you? But God is always with you. He always has his hand on you. So never doubt and never feel that God has forgotten about you. So I love you guys so much. I hope that my story inspires you just to keep going when times get rough. I know it's not the easiest thing in the world. But I'm hoping that through my story, you can find inspiration and encouragement to continue towards your goals. I hope that something was said that resonated with you, that kind of pushed you to keep going. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching. As I always say, finish each day strong, but always remember to finish each day whole. I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. Bye!